Ms. Anthea.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I support the bill, for this is critically necessary for the Zero Waste Master Plan to have any bite. This master plan has been eagerly anticipated by the community and was ceremoniously launched last Friday. In fact, I think even the ministry was eager to get this going. That the bill was referred to as the Act in the master plan on the website when I checked in after the launch. I thank SMS Amy Corr for taking my feedback on that misunderstanding, which has now been updated on the website and the master plan. The bill's intent is to fortify the regulatory teeth needed to ensure sustainability in the consumption of resources, which our planet has a finite amount of. However, the bill can and must do much more to reflect the urgency of the climate crisis, which I would like to discuss. I would also like to take this opportunity with the bill to urge the government to take a bold and different perspective in solving food security challenge for our vulnerable groups as a critical climate change action. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are not short of daily reminders that yesterday would have been better for taking actions against human-caused climate change. The United Nations International Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, had warned in October 2018 that we only have 12 years or 11 years now for global warming to be kept to a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius in order to limit climate change catastrophe per the Paris Agreement, which we are a party of. Closer to home, our waste generation has not reduced substantially at all. We generated 7.7 million tons of solid waste in 2018, only a 9,000 ton or a dismal 0.1% decrease from the previous year. In 2018, we generated 763,000 tons of food waste, accounting for 10% of our total waste. At this rate, our landfill will run out of space in 2035. Time is not on our side. Please allow me to propose further measures that must be implemented to signal the urgency. First, Mr. Deputy Speaker, smart targets and goals. Having companies simply report on their plans to reduce, reuse, or recycle products in the bill is insufficient. Reporting obligations have no bite if it's not accompanied by waste production limits and recycling targets for producers. We must set smart goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, so the producers can plan and prepare accordingly. For example, the European Union Packaging Directive 2018 said that by 2025, 65% by weight of all packaging must be recycled, with specific recycling targets for each material, such as 50% for plastic and 75% for paper and cardboard. By 2030, the target for recycled packaging is increased to 70%, including 55% for plastic and 85% of paper and cardboard. Such reduction targets can be achieved with ingenuity. In 2018, Unilever launched a 3-liter bottle for their Omo laundry detergent brand in Brazil with a formula at 6 times the concentration of the original, so it can be diluted in people's homes. This has reduced the volume of plastic used by 75%. Companies must also inform customers about maintenance and repair services, environmental impacts, and materials. Retailers should also actively inform customers of sustainable products. We can emulate the ambitious target setting and look to have companies report their progress on waste minimization year on year via a measure of waste per unit of product output. Second, we must encourage public accountability and corporate stewardship by mandating these reports to be made public. Currently, the Singapore Exchange listing rules already has sustainability reporting guidelines, but with no specific metrics prescribed. If we would like to see resource sustainability as a core part of doing business, it would seem sensible to stipulate the targets above as a standard reporting requirement for all listed companies. I understand that the Hong Kong Stock Exchange had a recent consultation on ESG reporting to, 1, require disclosure of significant climate related issues, and 2, amend the environmental key performance indicators to require disclosure of relevant targets. Third, to escalate the adoption of sustainability mindset and ensure affordability, we could incentivize producers and retailers with tax rebates so that these obligations do not merely end in increased costs for reporting and collection and the possibility of penalty, all of which will ultimately be passed on to the consumers. In China and Thailand, the EPR schemes introduced subjected companies producing non-biodegradable goods to taxes and offered tax credits as incentives for companies that use waste as raw materials. Finally, if we want to reduce our resource footprint, we need to broaden the notion of sustainability. Singapore's Earth Overshoot Day for 2019 was 12 April 2019. This means that if the world consumed like us, we would be consuming 3 times as much resources as the Earth can regenerate in a given year. If we were to drive true resource sustainability, we not only have to compel producers to reduce packaging and have mandatory take-back programs, we need electronics producers and retailers to be truly incentivized to extend product lifetimes, ensure maintenance and repair services availability. This is an area where legislation is fast moving in the EU. For example, in France, planned obsolescence of an electronic product is a criminal offense. There are also ongoing discussions in the EU that expected product lifetime be labeled. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as we discuss these measures to address the climate crisis, we must not miss tremendous opportunity to reduce and redistribute the phenomenal 763,000 tons of food waste generated every year, can provide for a more climate-just outcome for the estimated 400,000 food insecure people in Singapore. Let me caveat this number as an estimated derivation from the 2017-2018 Household Expenditure Survey. Let me illustrate why I think this is a tremendous opportunity and that the Zero Waste Master Plan must not be looked at in silo from the social challenges we have. Of the 763,000 tons of food loss a year, let's assume conservatively that half of them, or 382,000 tons, can be salvaged and redistributed. One meal conservatively uses 1 kg, and therefore we will get about 382 million meals from the redistributable food loss. Each person eats 1,095 daily meals a year, which is to say, we can safely feed about 390,000 people a year. That means, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this food loss every year could provide food security for all our vulnerable groups. I shared this in my debate at the Singapore Food Agency bill as well. I know this is a simple calculation, but I think we get the point. Prime Minister Lee sounded a clarion call for Singapore to recognize the threat that climate change poses to us. We must never forget that for most of the world, Singapore included, the most vulnerable amongst us will be hit hardest. Climate change is already affecting rice production in the Mekong Delta. As temperature rises, changes, agriculture productivity and sea level rises, food availability will inevitably be affected. For the 400,000 food insecure people in Singapore, any price increase is detrimental. SG Food Rescue is a small group of individuals, and they have demonstrated that there is much in our food value chain that can be saved and redistributed. Its volunteers collect a staggering 1,500 kilograms of unsold fresh produce once a week from Pasir Panjang Wholesale Centre. Sometimes they collect twice a week for a total of 2,500 kilograms of unsold fresh produce. 500 to 700 kilograms of that goes to charities, namely Free Food for All, Beyond Social Services, and St. Teresa's Home, that feed the needy, while the rest is sent to a soup kitchen in Little India, Krishna's Kitchen. The soup kitchen processes the vegetables and turns them into meals to feed the hungry, especially migrant workers in the Little India area. About 200 kilograms end up with a community initiative in Marine Terrace, just down the road from where I live, and one of the 6 public community fridges benefiting low-income residents. And we can do even more, and we need to do so urgently and systemically. We can shape food loss reducing behaviors by changing our food labeling policies and also enacting the Good Samaritan's Law and the Good Samaritan's laws. In Singapore, use by, sell by, expiry date, and best before all mean expiry date, according to the Singapore Food Agency. Products are not allowed to be sold or distributed in Singapore past that date. This is therefore a huge source of food waste. In many countries, including United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand, use by, best before, and sell by mean that after the food reaches its use by date, the quality and flavor of the food is lowered, but it could still be edible. Studies found that when a link between date labels, food waste, and its environmental impacts is made, the willingness to pay for expired food increases, particularly for expired frozen or recently expired semi-perishable products. Food that has gone past its best before date can be donated to charities so long as it's within 6 months of the best before date. I'm pleased to note that the Singapore Food Agency is exploring Good Samaritan laws to ease business concerns over the donation of excess food. I strongly advocate for the implementation of such laws which have been implemented in countries such as Italy and the United States and has encouraged food donations and reduced food waste. As I mentioned before, incentives to help drive corporate behaviors cannot be overlooked. We could consider extending the underused Business IPC Partnership Scheme, or BIPS, to include donation of edible food that would otherwise go to waste to charities. When supported by the Good Samaritan laws, this is especially compelling for many businesses I know, like Samsui Supplies and Services, through the Company of Good, a corporate giving initiative by the National Volunteer and Philanthropy Centre. Mr. Deputy Speaker, not only will such measures truly drive food resource sustainability, we could be relieving our financially trapped households of a huge burden. Based on the report of the Household Expenditure Survey 2017-18, comparing the expenditures on food and income, excluding CPF, of our lowest quintile Singaporeans, 49% of their income is spent on food. Madam Gopal, in her 70s, who lives in Toa Payoh, is one of them. She has zero income and survives on $500 per month from her SSO. As a beneficiary of Free Food for All, a charity that receives and redistributes donated food, she saves a minimum of $100 per month. Larger families are able to save much more. We will also be freeing up scarce resources dedicated to our social safety net for other essential needs such as healthcare. Based on our estimates on how much it costs for programs like Meals on Wheels and Wheeling Hearts that provide more than 10,000 meals daily in total, close to $15 million could be redirected to other aspects of social support, especially as higher standards of living with higher temperatures mean that the basic needs of even our most vulnerable must also be constantly reviewed. Mr. Deputy Speaker, engaging the business community must be a top priority because sustainability is a future investment for economic growth, new market opportunities, and job creation. Companies must be nudged out of their comfort zones into a greener and more innovative direction as we work towards building a circular economy. This bill and the Zero Waste Master Plan is the step in the right direction, but it is not enough. Not with the fierce urgency of the climate crisis and rightful ambition that we must have to be a leader in climate change mitigation. And more than that, sustainability is also a social parameter to secure a more inclusive society. As urgent as addressing the looming threats of climate change by reducing significant food loss is the need to solve the food insecurity problem of so many fellow Singaporeans by redistributing this food loss. If a small group of citizen volunteers like SG Food Rescue can move hundreds of tons of food loss every year to where they are needed most, imagine what we can do if we, government, business, and community, truly commit our will and resources to a national vision of getting all 400,000 people fed and make climate change everyone's concern. I believe we can do this. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Order. I propose to take a break now. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair again at 4:20. Order. Order.